Hello, everyone. You're listening to People Know Age, the podcast for people. This is season 2, the all inclusive table. I'm your host, Sanya Sharma, and you're listening to episode 21. Well, hello and welcome. I'm so excited. We are on episode 21. This feels like a very special achievement to me, and I'll tell you why. Because I had a coffee recently with a stellar leader in the industry, and they were telling me that it's great you're doing this podcast, and I think they're also working on a podcast. And there's this thing, that you never really go beyond episode 20. And it's the jinx of episode 20 that prevails in the podcasting industry. And I was like, wait, hang on. I've not heard about that jinx, and I'm going to pretend that I didn't hear about it because sometimes I think when you hear about jinxes, you're more likely to jinx something. So I'm glad that I didn't have to go through the jinx of episode 20, and I am now on episode 21, which makes me quite hopeful of reaching episode 50. And I think that is definitely worth celebrating. So I'm celebrating it with some tea. I thought that was a bit more appropriate to do on this audio video platform. So, thinking about why I've managed to come to episode 20 with this podcast, I had a bit of a reflective moment, and that definitely helped me think about what I wanted to discuss in today's episode. And we're talking about psychological safety. And I think one of the reasons why I've been able to continue with this podcast is because of psychological safety. Now, in the last episode, I spoke about the fact that psychological safety is super important if we are to take risks that are going to propel us in the direction of growth. Let's not actually put that much of a burden on risks. I think it's important in life generally to take risks, but we're more likely to take risks when we feel psychologically safe. Now, one of the things that prohibits us from taking risk or restrains us from taking risks is what? Come on, it's not that difficult. I've spoken about it in the first season of my podcast, if you listened to it. Well, the fear of experiencing negative emotions. Well, if someone told you that if you took a risk and if you were going to experience all these positive emotions of blockbuster success and appreciation and acknowledgement and acceptance and belonging and interviews and autographs and whatnot, and a Ferrari and a bungalow and the travel and food and wine and dine, I'm sure everybody will take a risk. But that is not how most things operate, and you don't see rewards of your risk immediately. In fact, sometimes you don't see rewards at all. Sometimes risk leads to a loss. That is why we have the saying that no risk, no gain, but risks also lead to losses. But that's the point. You never know until you take a risk. But when you take a risk, you know for a fact what is guaranteed is that you will experience negative emotions because, hey, who has heard of reaching a state of positive emotion without going through some bit of negative emotion? There exists no story in the world, there exists no path in the world where all you had was positive, 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 positive. Always, there's going to be an element where you've had to experience something negative. And if you've not experienced something negative, I definitely think it means you've probably just not taken any risk. You've probably had a very safe life, but no risk means no growth. So it is the risk of experiencing negative emotions of, failing or something we're working on not picking up or not doing, things not turning out the way we want them to be, that I think prohibits a lot of us from taking risks. And sometimes that barrier is within us. That fear stems from within us, that I am going to be self-critical of myself. But most of the time, it comes from how the outside world is going to treat us, how they are going to view our risks, how they are going to view our priorities, how they are going to view whatever is it that we have set our mind to achieving. Again, is all pervasive. That mindset is pervades our work, it pervades our personal life, it pervades our social life, it's everywhere because you take risks in every form, in every place. And because you take risks everywhere, there is a chance of experiencing negative emotions everywhere. But what is it that enables some of us to continue to strive forward in that risky direction, braving all the negative emotion that comes our way, while some of us stop? Think about a war. Sometimes you see, you have heard these stories of people going into war and they're like, we will do anything in this war, no matter what. There are stories of people not having eaten and not having had proper water and yet going to the battlefield with this mindset that we are going to give it our all. And what is it? What is it that drives these people? Like some of the greatest battles, some of the greatest victories. I think the more you read these stories, or at least the more I read these stories, and it's not just me saying, Simon Sinek agrees with me that it is somewhat rooted in a sense of purpose. Like for me, I can say it, personalize it, and speak from my personal example. The reason that I think I have not given up on my podcast yet is because I see a purpose in my podcasts. I'm quite confident that what I'm trying to do through my podcast is something that I believe in, it's something that I'm passionate about, and it's something that resonates with me, which motivates me every single day to get up and create my podcast or to invest in growing the podcast. And anything, any detours or any feedback doesn't really deter me. In fact, it only encourages me to do better and to incorporate it into my podcast because I'm passionate about it. And that, I think, is the difference that purpose makes. And I think that is how purpose becomes essential to building psychological safety, because purpose is something that you are connected to on a personal level. Nobody can come and dictate to you that this is your purpose. You choose your purpose, and then it is something that no one can take away from you. So it's a good fallback mechanism. And every single day that you get up, you feel like, okay, today I'm not getting appreciation for my work. Today I'm not getting acceptance for this, but I'm still going to turn up and do this job because I'm not doing it for external validation anyway. I am being internally validated because every single day that I show up, I am doing justice to my why, which is not rooted in external validation, in external approval, or in external psychological safety. It's rooted in my own internal psychological safety. So you have a psychologically safe relationship with yourself. Purpose doesn't mean, at least in my understanding, it doesn't mean that you have to continue going down paths that don't work. I think what having a purpose means is that this is something that I'm passionate about and I want to do something towards this goal of mine. This is the path that I'm going to adopt, and I'm going to brave all storms that come my way in this path because I value my purpose more than the storms and the stones and the hurdles that come my way. But if I realize pragmatically that there's no way I'm going to achieve my purpose through this path, then I am also equipped to not let negative emotions like fear, ego, or I don't know, risk of looking indecisive or whatever that is, stopping me from choosing another path to achieve my purpose. Because your purpose becomes this North Star that helps you rise over things that otherwise are not productive. So let's take example of organizations, something like Patagonia, which prides itself on its purpose-driven mission. I mean, or organizations that tend to define their purpose not in numbers but in absolute values. Say an organization that defines its purpose as chasing excellence. I mean, what does that do? Having a value, a neutral value like that as your purpose, serves as a guiding anchor when making decisions. So say you have 4 different ways of doing systems that will help you achieve a certain result. Which system should you choose? And there are all these external factors that can cloud your judgment. But if your personal value is that we're here to provide excellence, you're probably going to choose the system that is going to give you the excellence that you want to deliver. And there is a connection, and that makes decision making easier because it helps you retain your grounding and helps you see the bigger picture over short-term gains. And I think that rooting is super important if you are looking at psychological safety, especially in today's world where we cannot control the place where we will land in, how that's going to influence us. Having an internal motivator or having something, a strong reason to do something, I definitely think gives a lot of strength to what is it that we have set out to achieve. Because I would also like to flag that if you read into the literature and you should read the blogs that I've written on my website, peopleknowway.com, there are different things that motivate people, and there are three main values that have been found to be motivators for people. One is money, second is achievement, and third is purpose. And there is no judgment involved for anyone who's achieving these things. If someone's taking decisions or chasing money in their business, well and good for them. That's something that motivates them. If someone is motivated by achievement, well and good. That's something that, if it's helping them thrive, it's good for them. But those things don't work for everybody. So, not everybody gets motivated by money. Not everyone gets motivated by the next big achievement. Sometimes, to motivate some people, you've got to give them what resonates with them and where they find purpose. And here is the whole connecting dots theory. I think when you go through transition, and I mean, in my case, I've moved abroad and I have worked in high pressure environments in the biggest organizations in the world. When you are trying to sustain these things, I have had to really look inside and figure out, why am I doing something? What is the reason to brave all these, hurdles that are coming my way? And how do you keep yourself calm? And how do you go about what people say, keeping a rational mind, or thinking about things in a way that is guided towards taking things forward, or standing up, or deciding what is right, what is wrong. And for me, I think purpose has been very, very instrumental. Finding those small avenues to find meaning in the work that I'm doing beyond my job description. And that's just what motivates me. And I'm sure it'll resonate with some and it won't resonate with others. Some might think that this makes no sense because it just sounds very philosophical and it sounds very philanthropic, which is great, in which case philanthropy is the area and not business. But I don't think that is what purpose means. And what purpose really is trying to do is it's trying to give you a grounding and an anchor to, in a way, ensure that you are going in whatever direction you are going with conviction. And I think that conviction is very important, because if you don't have conviction in something, be it in your work, be it in your friends, be it in the people you're supporting, be it in the people you're reporting to, be it in the people you are supervising, then I don't think you will be motivated to supervise them. And again, these things are more durable because they're value oriented. So there are going to be good days and there are going to be bad days. But you're not going to let bad days influence your motivation to do something, because the broader motivation dictates that this is the right thing to do. And for me, that is value that purpose brings. It prevents you from letting temporary things and temporary events and temporary emotions dictate big decisions in your life or dictate big judgments. It gives you a lot of perspective, and in return, that perspective helps you take a long-term view of things, which I think makes it more likely that you are going to stick to something than abandon, because you have done the difficult job of evaluating your why. And I think once you have that, there is a safe space that you can retreat to, and you're more likely to bounce back quickly, because even if something, an external setup is taken away from you, and it can be in any form, right? Even say you are suddenly you're suddenly lifted from one jurisdiction, planted in another jurisdiction, or you shift organizations, or you shift your social circles, or you shift your passion projects. You're not really shifting North Star. That continues to exist. So your structures can change and the structures can be taken away from you, but what can't be taken away from you is your motivation. And it is very empowering because it gives you a lot of dignity of action, that this is something you control. And this is your method of establishing psychological safety. And it helps you feel powerful, that this is what I am going to set out to achieve. And this motivation stems from within me. And I am going to take the steps I need to take to make these things happen, with or without the external validation. And I can go and plant myself in locations where my personal psychological safety is going to be rewarded by my external psychological safety. And the other thing I want to talk about is I don't claim to be someone who is going about saying, oh, you must have this bigger purpose that you should be reporting to on a daily basis. I mean, yes, some people have it, some people don't. But finding meaning can be something very small. And I think it's the small things that make the difference and that infuse a lot of energy into our lives if that is something that you thrive on. So, for instance, I've realized that I really thrive on being able to share my knowledge with someone. So the days that I have a call with someone or I speak to someone and I'm able to give them some insight as to what I've learned and help them navigate a complex situation in their life, that really helps me. So I really like being a trusted advisor to someone, and I realized that is something that I really want to do or infuse more into my daily routine because it brings me a lot of energy. And that's just one way of finding meaning and purpose. So even if, say, you're not advisor to know the next president of some country or to the US elections, you don't need that, because that's an external metric or that's a sense of achievement which may or may not come. Your job, your motivation is to advise, and that can be fulfilled in so many different ways around you, and you are more likely then to choose areas or choose pathways that are in tune with your personality of being this sounding board or being this trusted advisor and your motivation to do it. So you're more likely to be internally motivated to do justice to opportunities that bring out that side of you. That's just one way of saying it. And as I said, I am not the only one who talks about it. There are business organizations that have adopted this model, either in terms of defining their purpose statement or defining or having mission statements for specific teams, and it has helped them. So there is evidence of purpose helping organizations and purpose helping individuals start and finish projects, start and build businesses, start and thrive in careers, build their career path. There are authors who talk about it, as I've mentioned, Simon Sinek as one of them. And his book is a piece of work that I read in my career break, which was the point in my career when I really sat down and read a lot about positive emotions, negative emotions, how to inculcate psychological safety within ourselves and in the environment, how to be psychologically safe for other people, and how to be psychologically safe for yourself. And one of the core elements of me being able to create that for myself on a daily basis has been starting with my why every single day. My daily dose of energy is my why behind doing every single thing. And on that note, I must say that I have switched books today. Today, the book that I've picked up is Simon Sinek's Start With Your Why. So I'm going to be reading an extract from his book now, which gels very well with today's topic. And I'll be reading more extracts from his book in the coming episodes. Today, we are at page 137 of his book, and it's a short section which is titled Amplify, the Source of Inspiration. The Golden Circle is not just a communication tool, it also provides some insight into how great organizations are organized. As we start to add dimension to the concept of the Golden Circle, it is no longer helpful to look at it as a purely two-dimensional model. If it is to provide any real value in how to build a great organization in a very three-dimensional world, the Golden Circle needs to be three-dimensional. The good news is it is. It is in fact a top-down view of a cone. Turn it on its inside and you can see its full value. The cone represents a company or an organization, an inherently hierarchical and organized system. Sitting at the top of the system, representing the why, is a leader. In the case of a company, that's usually the CEO, or at least we hope it is. The next level down, the how level, typically includes the senior executives who are inspired by the leader's vision and know how to bring it to life. Don't forget that a why is just a belief. How are the actions we take to realize that belief, and what are the result of those actions? No matter how charismatic or inspiring the leader is, if there are not people in the organization inspired to bring that vision to reality, to build an infrastructure with systems and processes, then at best inefficiency reigns and at worst failure results. In this rendering, the how level represents a person or a small group responsible for building the infrastructure that can make a why tangible. that may happen in marketing, operations, finance, human resources, and all other C-suite departments. Beneath that, at the what level, is where the rubber meets the road. It is at this level that majority of employees sit and where all the tangible stuff actually happens. So there you go. There are three levels to it, as you can see in his golden circle. I'm not sure if it's visible. It's the why, how, and what. And we are today at the why. And I've already said why is not enough, but why is a starting point. You can have the why, but you also need to make the why come true with the how and with the what. But the why is a starting point which gives you a durable anchor. It's like creating a house and laying the foundation, your foundation being the why. The stronger your why, the more durable is going to be your what and how. And the weaker your why, the more confused is going to be your what and how. So that is what I would like to leave you with in today's episode. Try and see whether you can get a sense of psychological safety in doing the things that you want to do if you have a why. Does your why, having a clear why, a strong why, propel you to take the risks that you otherwise wouldn't have taken? And this why could be anything. It could be a value that you feel passionately about. It could be a cause that you feel passionately about. I mean, people have run marathons when they thought they couldn't do it, or people have, gone to space. You should ask them what their purpose is. But there is something about that motivation, and that motivation is your why. So the sooner you get closer to it, the better. I'm hoping this is an exercise that you will do, and in the next episode, we are going to discuss it in a bit more detail. Until then, stay tuned and take care.